presentation we gotta figure out for tomorrow is our main objective today. So we're gonna have you guys. I haven't uploaded them yet because we're gonna go through them first, but you're gonna have access to everybody else's PowerPoints too. We're gonna review them and then decide how to make this work. We'll start by looking at all your work here. I hope those guys are going to be here today. They turned something in, but do you know, is wrestling traveling or anything?
I know Carson.
He wasn't in the county. All right, well, let's start with, one of you that's here for starters. All right, Rayleigh, I guess you were the first one to come up. So all I'm going to do here is allow you guys to see what other people did. Take some notes. So grab a piece of paper so you can kind of remember. And then we'll kind of discuss the format. Oh, good. There you guys were. Carson here too, or not?
You will be.
Okay.
So I was going to add up to the
Okay.
So,
at the end.
I
Okay, so here is Rayleigh's, and you guys can think about the format. Some people might have had stuff laid out differently than other people, so ultimately we're going to kind of converge the PowerPoints and then come up with a game plan. So it looks like you've got the pieces of the puzzle that we're wanting to do for the CPS process. So
yeah, I don't know if it's almost the first one.
yeah, that's fine. We'll here's just have to do the first one. We're going to so the assessing situation, and we did the who, what, when, where, why, and how from Dana's presentation. So go ahead and write this down on your sheets of paper. We're just going to kind of start to hit have a hit list. All right, so then you are just explaining what we did here with the groupings.
Mm-hmm.
And was this one from the who, what, when, where, why, and how? Remember if that was it or? Yeah. Okay. And I mean, it doesn't totally matter that, you know, we can kind of move them around. So, okay. And then did you get to the task statement here? Storm ideas. Okay. So that's important. Getting to eventually, so you worked on it here with formulating challenges. That was part of it, right? Where we ultimately formed the task statement of we want to increase board numbers from that. So that'll be somewhere in here. Let me just run through this whole thing. Okay, so that's, and then you got down, and this is where you didn't get, so that you didn't have the picture of the last one. Okay. But you had some of the top four you've got down here. Okay. All right. Let's look that up. Here's Bobby's. Representative Robinson. Okay. Okay, so you do the task statement right away. So pretty soon, after we assessed the situation, we did the groupings from that of the who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? So we kind of had the post-it categories, like what Ray had on. And then we eventually got to this task statement. So part of the presentation tomorrow would be kind of where we started. We had these categories of things that we thought were important, and then it ended up eventually getting to coming up with the task statement of increasing the board members. Did you, so is that a graphic, putting the duct tape, or?
That's the whole, like,
Yeah, that's just part of like the template for your PowerPoint or something? Yeah. Okay. All right, so discussion on will it grow? Okay, so you're explaining that picture there. Okay, good picture coming together. So that's part of that number 3, I think, right? Or I'm sorry, number 2. That pictures, we got that grouping. Okay, and then we have the individual ones, which for the presentation tomorrow, we might have, it might be good to show her that we had 10 of them, you know, that we diverged on. We basically diverged on that, and then some of you, and I saw in the other one, I haven't gone through these thoroughly, so feel free to talk as we get a little bit deeper into it. All right, and we got the convergence on the signs, and then you got your final, with that final one. We're gonna ultimately want to show both final recommendations and why, you know, pieces of it that we thought were important. All right, Cordell. Is that really Guatemala pick?
No idea.
Okay. It looked like Guatemala, especially those are snow-capped mountains. It would be cool to have a Guatemala pick, possibly, as we start to formulate things. All right, so what is education and more? You showed the SWOT analysis. Okay, yeah, so the SWOT is the other thing that could be part of the presentation on getting to the task statement. So we have the posted categories and maybe the SWOT. The webbing diagram. Okay, good. You have the criteria here listed out. I think that's going to be a good piece of this too once we got to that point. It's a task statement. So after we got to the task statement, that's when we started diverging with the signs at some point, and then we have the criteria. And then you went to the converge one. Okay. Let's see. Is this yours, really? No, that's yours. Okay. Carson. Okay, so we've got the SWOT, webbing, final 4 posters. Okay. So you pretty much just stuck to, you didn't have many words, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You guys can kind of decide how much. I think we want to have words in there too, because if she sends the file, the PowerPoint, to her other board members or other stakeholders, let's let the PowerPoint tell part of the story too, in addition to the recording for this particular thing. Yeah, right?
I was
Oh.
just thinking, so like, is the PowerPoint supposed to like just stand on its own to like be sent to other people without us presenting it?
I think it'll be helpful to have it do that. It'll still be some bullets, but yeah, I don't want it to be the report, because we also have the report. I think it'll be enough with the presentation and you guys explaining it, but ultimately, you know, if she forwards it off to somebody, it'd be nice to have some of the words rather than like just this. Okay, so let's Carson. See camera. And that's why it's kind of nice that we can all share, because then, so, you know, different people laid it out differently. You guys can kind of mash together different pieces. Okay, so you've got some of what we're doing with the divergent thinking. SWOT analysis, vision statement. Okay, so you got that picked. That had the criteria on the board too. Call to action, you got those laid out. Evaluation matrix, okay? And who's this? That's yours.
I'm the person that I'll be like selling, like listening to us, and like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Talking, you know, a little.
Well, no, that's why I did it this way, so that you guys can kind of converge, see what like looks nice. Now we're just thinking more about we're kind of converging on the actual presentation now from you guys individually diverging on how you would have done it. So this kind of, you know, might be a way to kind of give it a roadmap or something ahead of time. Yeah, okay, so I mean, this is kind of at least part of the story. I don't know if it would necessarily have to be on the PowerPoint, but working your way through of why we chose to do the ad was part of the process. Okay. Okay. What's that?
Photo time commitment.
Huh?
4-hour work week, like it's showing the time commitment was very important to us.
Oh, okay. It looks like is it a book or
It's
something?
something cut off because the bottom half was talking about how to like lessen the workload. So
Okay.
that.
Okay. Yeah, I think this kind of leads into some of the stuff that, you know, we can only take this project so far, and so this is kind of your to-do list, right? As far as filling in the blanks on some of that too. That'll be part of it as well. Show photos of this trip.
What included in that is
Okay.
Judy's idea for church.
Oh, okay. For, as far as the ad. All right.
So was I sent it to?
Oh, you did? Is this the? Okay, I saw you didn't have any photos. Okay.
About the next.
See, I think I still have it open. Okay, don't look at the screen. Jeez. Okay, yeah, attempt. The second attempt is the one. Okay. So you just added a couple of photos to it. Let me just. And then that's everybody's. Sean, did you do it or not? I
Yeah.
saw you didn't have it uploaded, but when I was doing it, but. Okay. I'll bring yours up to you then. Oh, and then some of you had I forgot, some of you did a PDF or something, right? One of you, a couple of you that, okay, yeah, Jalen, you were one of them too, okay. Yeah, I think mostly bullet points, and then the words will be you guys doing some of that. So the words here might be good as part of your narrative and setting up for that. Okay, let's see. Here, this is this. That's yours. Okay. So yeah, we do need it as a PowerPoint, but we can look at what you did here. Although I do screenshots. So. All right, assessing the situation, finding the vision statement, and you meant the task statement?
Yeah.
Okay. Because we did not do the vision statement officially, so you don't want that on the presentation. So there, you got the statement. How did we reach this vision? Okay, so here you kind of wrote out explaining it. Yeah. Grouping, making a social media post, the criteria, recommendation. Okay, who else did I miss then? Oh, Sean. Okay. Okay, so we probably don't want to do too much of this, of explaining to the board member what they do, right? So we want to kind of explain what we did to absorb what we learned from the presentation. But as far as tomorrow's presentation, we wouldn't want to do kind of rehash what they do when we're talking to the board member, right? So we'll move into what you did here. Okay, so you listed out those strengths and weaknesses when we did that opportunity threads. Probably not that much detail with the SWOT. Like I think just like some of you others did with just a picture of the SWOT and kind of explaining, you know, without going into that detail of each one, but explaining it. Okay, I think this would be kind of interesting that do something like this where you're pointing to the things that we thought we uncovered and then went into the diverging solutions. Okay, so you got that. So we want it to be a little more focused. So some of this is what we diverged on with all of that. So for this presentation tomorrow, we'll stay pretty focused on the task statement and increasing and then get into the advertising. Okay. Anybody else here that we didn't look at? Gabe, did you do it? The written part? Okay. Oh yeah, yours. Yours was a PDF too though, right? I swear I downloaded those too. I don't know where they're hiding, but I guess I'll just go back to the Great sign. So on your last attempt, this one. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you did good. You got the two pictures. So we do want to make sure we got both of those pictures and kind of walking through that. Okay, so now that you've seen them all, let's kind of come up with a game plan here. Task statement, diverging the signs. I think a slide that maybe has all of the signs like at once, just to kind of show them at a glance that I like to convey that, hey, we spent a lot of class time doing this, right? So we kind of want to show off that we dedicated a decent amount of effort here trying to work through. So show all criteria, and then we get to the final signs. Okay, I just did kind of a quick and dirty list there. Things that are missing from this that you think would be important to start to figure out. That's kind of a roadmap we can think on doing. So let's see, everybody's here today that has been coming in. Are we missing anybody? We are. Oh, yeah, I'm not. So Matt.
Not that they used to do.
Ricardo, he's out. Appears like a fell. He hasn't responded to a couple of emails since. So. Yeah, but yeah, that would have been the only person. So I think we're good. Okay. And everybody here is going to be here tomorrow, correct? Okay, good. Looks short of contracting COVID or something. So we're going to today kind of finish out working this roadmap, and then we'll break the presentation into parts. And either we can make a few of them, some of you guys, we're not going to complete this all today in class. So I'm going to, we'll break you guys into groups to merge things on your own. And then that group can kind of come up and present this part, and then this part, and then this part. So we'll have, depending on how many parts we want, and that's what I wanted to work out with you guys, not knowing for sure how many people are be here. And then you kind of do a short presentation, and probably, you know, it can be a little Q&A and fairly flexible too, but we'll probably get through most of the straight presentation, and then we can have more of a discussion after we break apart. I see a hand up. Dave? Oh, you do have a game? Yeah. Okay. So if you're not here tomorrow, you have more of a workload because you're going to have to present the whole thing yourself. So you need to do a full presentation and record yourself. Okay. So how should we break? How do you guys want to break it apart if we have? Assessing the situation. Yeah, like this could be like these things are grouped together, first half, second half. We could do it. I'm looking for your guys' suggestions on how you think from what you saw, and then yeah, we've got so minus Gabe, so we got 10 people. Yeah, 10 minus Gabe, so right, so 10.
5, 3, 5. I do the first two, I do the last two. That's good.
break it into 3 parts or 2. The suggestion on the floor is cut it in half. And then you're going to have, little sub things. I mean, it's just kind of a mental way to think about how we want to present it. We'll let you guys decide. So 2 groups of 3, or we could break it into 6 pieces or something, and that's probably too much. I think you need to catch a little bit of the flow.
2 groups of 3, 1 framework. Well, that's what I.
That's 3.
I think 2 cents.
So 3, 3, 4, 3, 3. Yeah. Where do you think we're going to spend the most time? Like that, again, you don't have to break these. Like I think that'll be the first 3. I mean, you want to spend enough time thinking about the criteria and breaking down, eventually getting down to the final sign. Then with the final signs, you're going to have elements of the final sign to really explain and piece out. So. I think 3 parts to it seems, having 3 to 4 people up here rather than 2 groups of 5. I think it'll be easier for you guys to work together on it as well. So let's see, post to Canva swap test. Oh, something like that? Is it like that roughly? 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
You guys are probably better at thinking about this than I am, since you spent the time making your own presentations. You kind of thought through, and now we'll have a little bit more once we start pooling together different things.
So are we going to just do the groups by each 3?
We wouldn't have to. That was going to be my next question. How do you want to break it apart?
We live together.
Yeah, I think you guys all are together. So who had? I think here. Which one of these presentations did you like the best?
I thought that last one was
This one?
they just didn't have the one. I thought Jalen's was pretty good.
Jalen had it as a power. It's not on here. It's on a. It was as a PDF.
I like Deshaun's.
Is this?
I actually remember it though.
Oh, I already lost it, didn't I? Oh wait, here we go. Here's Jalen's. Jalen, is yours able to be saved as a PowerPoint pretty easily or not?
Yeah, I
Okay, you just saved it as a PDF,
yeah.
right? So, okay. All right, so what's your votes for, is any objections to breaking apart U4 and these 3? Okay. So what, who wants to do what?
We can do the first one.
Who said that? You guys want the first one to lead?
We'll assess the situation.
Assess the situation.
SWOT.
I'm open for suggestions.
We want the final signs.
You guys want to do the final? Yeah, some of the criteria, you guys, I don't know if you watched the video, but yeah, we picked, who was it? Yeah, it was Carson, and I was thinking we drew on some of your stuff. I mean, there's a little bit of mix and matching, but. So you did 3 more? Okay. So this will be. Miguel, Carson,
Wow.
you guys got this one. Oops. Oops. All right. There we go. So, I'd say for most of what I saw, you guys can now really drill down on expanding now that you have your category to focus on and add some more depth to maybe whatever you had before. Yeah.
So is each number a slot, just one slide, or is it just getting that point across in like?
No, multiple slides. Yeah, I think each one of these, you might have 5, like you can add more pics, more details now that you guys are focused in on a particular area. So you can bring up as many as you need, but to get the point across and tell the story a little bit too. Like maybe you'll have 5 or 10. I don't care. I think like the diverging signs, like I said, maybe you got 3 up at a time, or maybe you got all 10 of them up. You guys can decide, but make it so that it shows well. Yeah.
Is there any ways to make PowerPoints available?
I am going to do that. Yep. So all the PowerPoints that we have here are going to be uploaded to the project area. All of your individual PowerPoints.
So since like we're doing like 1 and 2, they're doing like 3 and 4, they're doing 5 and 6. Do you need to all like format it the same way, or is it like that's?
No, why not? You guys can just do
separate thing.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to sync up and have the same PowerPoint. So basically, the first you guys will come up, bring us to this point, and then the next group will come up, and we can have all the PowerPoints loaded, the 3 different PowerPoints.
You want me to send it to you as a PowerPoint?
Yeah, if you can. So let me just give you guys 10 minutes then. Why don't you just start talking right now since we're in class time? I'll give you 10 minutes till 12:30 and kind of develop your own plan of what you want in your PowerPoints, kind of roadmap things out a little bit. If you got your laptop here, you can pull them open. I'll start saving the PowerPoints to the shared area, the area where we had all the other pictures. And Jalen, why don't you just email it to me if you were you able to do it right now on the spot or not? Okay.
So we have 6 square
All right, Russ, I just emailed you.
Okay.
I can see where he was getting like each of the categories.
Yeah.
What will you have?
Did we do the SWOT analysis before we did the sticky notes?
We did it after the sticky note. It was the same day, but we did yeah, we added the SWOT after we did the groupings, I think, for the sticky notes.
I'm gonna share with y'all.
Wait, no, that's.
Because mine is like out.
Oh, wait, you're going on that one. According to. Okay, but is that? Are you gonna be able
Point out each individual quality in the farming.
What's the?
No, but I'm saying.
What was the city's?
Lake Actifon. It's around Lake Actifon. It's and it's Panajachel. Yeah, Panajachel is one of the cities around the lake. Yes.
We have to. So we're not having a very good chance. It's violent.
Yeah, if you guys do something like you did, Cordova, if you want to keep that, use the Guatemala pick actual instead of the Rockies or whatever that was. I'm just saying, if you, I didn't hear what you got, whether you were using your background, but there's beautiful pictures of, like if you do Lake Atitlan, they probably have something on their website too, but if you just, Guatemala mountains or Panajachel. Let me finish doing this and then I'll pull it up. Actually, I could,
Here's a picture for Western Guatemala.
yeah, it's like, because those are two volcanoes, it's super pretty. So yeah, you guys, this is, you'll find lots of pictures online if you wanted to include anything. I'm not saying you have to, but the questions are being asked. Panajachel is the place where my wife usually stays, that's close to the villages that they go to work with women. And I think that's where they're going to build the weaving center is in Pana too, I think.
Yeah, we can have a slide. That one goes.
Can we have the final four on the criteria? Like,
You know what?
the final four pictures on the criteria, like I had mine.
You mean to explain the criteria or something, or?
Yeah, like.
Oh, there's top four.
We had these, and then we took the color line, like we took each category from each.
Yeah, and then you can kind of explain some of that from the top four. I think Rayleigh did something like that too. I'm just about to publish everybody's PowerPoint.
What would you call the posting of categories, activity?
Groupings, and
Like, because that's even like for writing of it stuff, that's like part of it, isn't it? It's just grouping stuff, like the whole exercise.
You mean explaining the brainstorming exercise, or vocalizing it and then writing them down and then?
Yeah.
Did that come after though?
Well, we did it twice.
Yeah, we did it a couple different times. So I mean, you basically create categories by moving the post-it notes around. So you can kind of explain that. Is that what you're asking? Just like what is the title, or?
Yeah, just really what was the title?
Where we were up here. I just wrote that as like, you know, creating the categories to help basically start conversions, or that helps put new things after we've diverged. It's kind of was the first step, and then that helps you pick out like themes if there was, you know, a lot of post-it notes in one particular category. Then it's like, oh, this must be important, or maybe this is important, but not necessarily. I mean, one great post-it note might be a standalone, unique idea, but it just kind of helps you filter through the ideas. All right, so here is everything up here now. It kind of goes in order. When I put your first name after your presentation, so again, you guys are free to use anybody's PowerPoint if they, you know, if you like what they did or something, and then kind of modify it. So at the end of each one, I just got Cordell, Jake, Carson, Gavin. And then also, don't forget, these are up here too. Now that you know you're doing the assessing the situation, and if you want to go into the PowerPoint that we went through in class, here's the chapter, the PowerPoints that I presented in class for that content too. Okay. So I want to jump into the next stuff. So let's kind of put that to bed. You guys can, that'll be your homework for tonight. One more cleanup thing here. So all of you will put your group thing into this. So this is where you'll turn this part of the assignment in. Gabe, you'll do your whole thing here, and it is due. You'll be due by tomorrow class time. Your merged PowerPoint, each of you should upload it to this assignment page, right? So whatever you guys come up together with, and that'll be uploaded there. Okay.
All three of us?
Yeah. Each of you individually upload the same thing. Yes. Once you get it done for this group part. All right, so let's disengage on that. We're gonna crack open. We've just got 2 chapters left. And then we're heading into home for finishing off the class here. So this will be a good way to bookend this. So chapter 11, exploring acceptance. So this step is really, we have a solution maybe, and now we're not sure how. It might be more complicated than it looks, and maybe we need to explore how to get people on board with this change that we're doing. And you'll see some of this kind of come up with the iceberg stuff that's due Wednesday night, remember, for iceberg as well. So give this a read. Reasons to explore acceptance. How many of you have been blindsided with something that you weren't sure, like you thought it was going to be fine, and then all of a sudden somebody poo-poos something or whatever? That's the type of thing that you don't want to have happen, especially when you're publicly bringing something up. So I got blindsided here at the university years ago. One of the professors I had, Jim, working with the Working Institute, was going to be coming to campus and presenting or something. And maybe it was to give an honorary doctorate, which is kind of an honor that we do. And so I presented it to the faculty. I'm like, this guy was an alum of the university. I'm like, this is like a no-brainer, right? So I bring it up to faculty, and then all of a sudden there's an objection. And it was on the agenda, but the other faculty member didn't come to me privately to say that they were going to be objecting and kind of make a stink about it. And so that might have been something now that kind of taught me the lesson that there's something here to be said, that maybe, you know, you can do a little legwork to make sure you don't get blindsided at the time you're trying to present whatever your idea is. Okay, so we're going to need some contextual thinking. What the heck is that? Contextual thinking. Really, number between 4 and 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What do you think? Contextual thinking. We have all these different types of thinking that we started the class off with. And you can just take a stab at what you think it means. Okay, we're wrong. Contextual thinking. Thinking contextually. Okay. Outcomes from doing what? And remember where we're at. We're exploring acceptance. So we have an idea of how to increase the board numbers, and now we're going to explore acceptance. We need some contextual thinking. Who wants to jump in here? Harrison?
Can I think outside the box?
Thinking outside the box. I think that's what we want to do, but in a more formal way. What are we thinking about outside the box about? Bryce?
Like, within like the context of the situation, like who are actually using this to trying to gain acceptance from.
Yeah. So it could be other circumstances and even beyond people, right? So if we're presenting this, what's the space that we're presenting in? Are the people going to feel comfortable in here? What's the air conditioning like? Is there a fan blowing, right? So what's the context surrounding our pitch, so to speak? All right, so there we go. Understanding the interrelated conditions and circumstances that will help or hinder. So you mentioned people. So who are stakeholders again? Somebody had a decent definition, I think, before, Cameron?
Someone that's got like something invested in.
Yeah, I want a little more on that, Jalen.
Is it like anyone who's a part of something or the?
Okay, part of something, we're dabbling around it. Let me come back to Carson here.
Anybody who's affected by the outcome.
Anybody who's affected by the outcome, yeah. Who's going to be impacted by the decision?
I think Kevin said last week,
The feeling part, that's the affective. It's usually emotions and stuff like that. And so, you know, when we think about the people related, we talked about education more. This might come up with, you know, I guess especially up here maybe, but, you know, thinking about all the people with the organization, you know, that we thought through on the who, for the who, what, when, where, why, would be the stakeholders. Okay, so helpers and haters. So here's a couple tools that we can use to think about the context of what we're doing. So they call it assisters and resistors, but I kind of like helpers and haters. So who's going to be against it? Who's going to be on our team, right? And how can we eventually get to having the people we need to be thinking positively about it? So we're going to use some divergent thinking to generate options within each of these categories of kind of the helpers or the haters. So we can go through a whole situation, especially where there's a lot of stakeholders or something. You might need to really brainstorm depending on the complexity of what you're trying to do. And so that's what our stakeholder analysis is here. Who are the key people that will either support or reject? And how do we do it? Create a list, and then think about the scale of whether they're going to be on board or not, right? So this is a kind of a neat tool to really think through where they're at today and where we want them to be. So here's a, this tool is so good. If you guys, has anybody used it, just curious, already? On anything that came up while the course started? It's such a great way to frame your thinking, and it goes beyond assessing the situation. Here we are here, thinking about who's going to be assisting, who's going to be not, or what are some other things related to it. So this was for the who individuals, of course, but then what is going to be related to that? And then when is the timing deal? So should we introduce this next week or next month, right? So the timing could be an assistance or resistance thing. And then finally the where, physical locations, the air conditioning, why. So we kind of go through the process of thinking about the implementation. All right, so here's that stakeholder list. So we went through the process of identifying the stakeholders. For this particular example out of the book, they're building a bridge. So imagine in a major city, they're thinking about building a bridge. It could be a little bridge, it's going to be using tax dollars, right? So fairly complicated on are we going to get this passed or not? So we've got the list of all the stakeholders, current levels of support, and estimate where their levels are and where we need to be. So the X on a strongly oppose to strongly support, where do we think Congressman Smith is? He's already vocalized that he doesn't want to waste tax dollars on something or whatever, right? So we think, oh, he's going to be a little bit against this. We're going to have to work on Congressman Smith because we really need him on board to get this through. And then here, this was a bridge that was going to go between Canada or right near the border. So we got New York government, them, truck drivers, businesses that are going to use the bridge. So we need to demonstrate maybe to the taxpayers that having this bridge will be of value long-term for your kids and your, whatever. Kind of go through the whole mix. And so then you can really think about the resources that you need to put to get Congressman Smith. I need to get in front of him, buy him dinner, take him golfing, whatever the case is, on moving the needle to get his support. Okay, so questions on that? Makes sense? I'm kind of just organizing your thoughts on where people might be in or out. So then we go back to using convergence. Remember on our tool, I haven't looked at that thing before, but you see the rhythm. So with our visual that we had this little diamond shape. What was the diamond shape reflecting? Give you a hint, it was on your midterm. Diverging and converging, diverging and converging. And so with each one of these things, when we tackle something, we can use some of the tools to assess maybe the situation. Now we're looking at stakeholder list or something. And then we might have had a whole bunch of stakeholders, but for getting the bridge to go through, we didn't need to analyze all of the stakeholders, just the ones that were key. So we'd be converging on some hits to narrow down the barriers. So on exploring acceptance, it kind of naturally leads you into that last one, which is formulating the plan. So developing a more formal plan. So here, exploring acceptance was to identify the challenges that we might face with stakeholders and all of that. And now we can get into the plan. So here we were here, and this was on implementation. Give that a read. So my little bubble here is ever thought this after writing things down was related to this can-do attitude. Have you guys ever been stressed about something and you're just kind of feeling uneasy, and then you write it down and it's like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal now that I see it on paper, right? So and that's just starting. That would be kind of the start of having a plan that, oh, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think I can do this. So that's why having a little more formal plan in a complex situation, we're going to spend some time. By the way, all of this stuff, we've said it before, but I just want to remind you that you don't go through the whole thing with every situation, right? We kind of started with going in chapter order, assess the situation, formulate challenges, exploring ideas, and kind of go around the ring. Why? Why do we not necessarily do that all the time? It'd be a waste of resources, a waste of time, right? Because that's why we kind of spend all this time in multiple class periods. It needs to be a complex enough thing, and it might work for some situations, and that's where you just have to use your judgment on whether it's complex enough or maybe we just go in and do it. So we got tactical thinking on this, putting a plan, the law of navigation. So creating some action steps to get to that desired outcome. Couple divergent tools. Broad search for them, implementing, use divergent thinking tools to generate the steps required, follow the divergent thinking guidelines to amass all the action steps. And then we got this how diagram. So how do we actually start doing it? Because when we're formulating a plan, we've got action. So that's one thing to say, oh, let's get this find board members thing or whatever. And then it's another thing to, well, how are we going to do that? And so that's part of this final implementation. So we're doing a mapping thing. And so like how, let's see, this could be a little bit of a summary. Who's on our final signs? I think you guys should include something along those lines of where do they go from there? Some action plan. Not to go full bar, but it might be kind of obvious, but here's our final signs. What are the next steps for you guys to do? So Dana thinks this is a great idea, let's say tomorrow, and we start to say, well, how? Or she would need to start thinking about how to get this into place, right? And so this how diagram, the how helps you kind of work through that. So solution, this is for rearranging the office complex. How do we do that? Create a budget, create a master plan. Identify. So somebody has these ideas that we're gonna do that. So create a budget, how? And so just keep asking how. Identify all available sources locally, speak with senior management at headquarters about the project, and identify additional sources of funding. How? So let's go on. The book doesn't go on. What's the how here? So how? How do I speak with senior management at headquarters about the project and identify additional funding sources? How?
You asking us that?
Yep, I'm asking you guys this time. How do we do this? So we started here. Here's our solution. Improve the efficiency and collaboration among employees by rearranging and restructuring the office complex. How do we do that? We need money. We need to have a budget on what we're going to spend. We need to speak with senior management about the headquarters. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. How?
All
What's that?
all
Call a meeting. How?
email.
Email. How? Open up the computer. How?
By my name.
Use my hands, touch the keys, right? So that's why I say you keep doing it until it's stupid, right? Here they, you know, the book says kind of until you reach the logical end. I can't remember if it's on this one or not. But we keep doing the how until it gets stupid, basically, until it's like, oh, okay, I don't need to go further with telling my brain, telling my finger to press the keys and actually type the names. But it does help roadmap that out, especially when you have multiple things that you're doing. It can get you moving in the right direction. Okay. So once we have the action steps that we've diverged on, maybe using the how, then we can start to narrow those things down into making the plan. So we've got a couple tools here, sequencing and the performance dashboard. Sequencing and the performance dashboard. So how do we deal with time? So again, we're looking for setting things up. Time is important. And so here's kind of the 5 steps for sequencing. Confirm the solution or change. I got a fancy little thing here. So what are we doing? We are committed to offering graduate programs to distance students. So it's like Ottawa University offering new programming or something, right? So that's what we're looking to do. Determine the time horizon. So right here, this particular group had it immediate, short-term, intermediate, 2 to 9 months, long-term. It doesn't have to be that. Depending on what your problem is, it might be collapsing down in a month. So what am I going to do today? What am I going to do next week? And by the end of the month, I'm looking to be done, right? So this is just an example for this particular problem. They wanted to get it done within a year. And it had a longer planning horizon. Break down the timetable. So that is our 2 months, 2 months to 9 months, all of that stuff. Organize the action steps. So now within each one, who's going to do it? When is it going to be done? And when it's done, who's going to know that it's done? Right? So this is pretty detailed on trying to get through a really organized plan. If you have multiple people doing multiple things, maybe it's preparing for a talk tomorrow or whatever. Depending on the complexity, it's nice to know what other people need to do. So that if this person, the program coordinator, if they see this plan, they're like, oh, okay, I got to budget some time 2 to 9 months because these guys have to do some work before it comes to my table. But everybody gets to see this time frame at a glance. All right, and then of course double check for overlooked items. There you go. There's your last 2 chapters. Yeah.
After we're done, do you want me to email this to you?
The final converged one? You're going to turn it in, yeah. So everybody individually, once you're done at that group site, turns it in.
Do we, just the slots to turn it in, right?
Yeah.
Like work?
Yeah.
what's in all of that.
We'll figure it out.